Welcome back to Bay Sunday. Please welcome the filmmaker behind the emerging documentary called SignTheShow. Her name is Cat Brewer. Cat, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us about your film.
Well, about 2.5 years ago, I attended a concert, and for the very first time, I saw a sign language interpreter signing the show. I've been going to concerts since I was about 8 or 9 years old, and this was my first time seeing an interpreter there, and I was blown away. And in my ignorance, I didn't realize that deaf people even liked going to music concerts.
Right.
So I started talking to the interpreter and then communicating with deaf people. And I learned about a lot of challenges that deaf people face when trying to access live entertainment. And it really touched me because as a hearing person, I've taken for granted my entire life things that I can do as a hearing person. Not just going to a concert or a comedy show, but even just communicating with my family members.
Right.
So I really wanted to bring some awareness to the challenges that deaf people face when trying to access live entertainment. And I wanted to show how music and comedy really connect all cultures, no matter if we're deaf or hearing.
So in your conversations with this person, what did you learn about a person's experience if she or he is deaf, and when they attend a musical concert like that? What is it like for them?
There's quite a few challenges, and deafness comes in a range. It's not where people, if they consider themselves deaf, that they can't hear anything. It really does come in a wide scale of hearing or not hearing. And the challenges that they face could be something as big or as little as proper location of an interpreter. So if a deaf person wants to go attend a concert, they need to be able to be in the sight line of both the interpreter and the artist. Right. And some venues aren't knowledgeable enough to place an interpreter in the proper place or have the right lighting so that a deaf person can see the interpreter signing the show. There's other challenges such as, like, if you and I wanted to go to a concert together, we would just coordinate on our calendar, be done with it, buy our ticket, and go to the show. Right. But if a deaf person wants to go, they have to request access through the venue typically. And a venue could come back and say, I'm sorry, we're not providing access on the Friday show, but we're providing access for you on Sunday. And the deaf person might not be able to attend the event on Sunday. That's not something you and I as hearing people have to take into consideration.
Yeah, sometimes we take things for granted.
We do.
Well, we have a short clip from the film. Let's take a look.
Any final words that you would like to say now that we've had this conversation that you can think of that I didn't ask?
No, but I like what you're doing. It's cool. You know, it's like, I like anything that brings awareness to things that kind of get lost in the shuffle, but...
Any final words that you would like to say now that...
So that was Pat Monahan from Train.
Yes.
What was that discussion like, and what was the story there?
Pat was great. Most of the people that I have interviewed, and I've spent the last 2.5 years interviewing deaf individuals, sign language interpreters, comedians, and musicians. And most of the people that I have interviewed have been so extremely generous with their time. And for a lot of them, it's their first time, especially as a musician or comedian, thinking about having deaf people at their performance. Some of them have worked with interpreters before, but some of them haven't really given consideration to the fact that, hey, what if I have an interpreter at every single show that I perform at? And what kind of access and inclusion would that allow for the deaf community?
Right. You know, not too long ago when you would watch news conferences, if there were a hurricane on the way, you would see the mayor, emergency personnel up there talking about the dangers, and there would not even be a person signing to those who are deaf. But now that's totally different. You watch a news conference and you always have that interpreter out there. Do you think that's a trend that's going to happen in music and entertainment as well?
That's my whole goal with this documentary, is to make sure that deaf individuals have the exact same access that hearing individuals have.
Right. And who are some of the other entertainers that you're hoping to talk to? Kelly Clarkson? Or?
I actually interviewed Kelly Clarkson.
Right.
It took almost a whole year to coordinate the interview with her, but it was well worth it. She's a huge supporter of the deaf community. I've interviewed comedians like D.L. Hughley, Andrew Santino, Brent Morin, who's actually here in San Francisco performing this weekend. I've interviewed Sinbad, Train, Grace Potter and the Nocturnals, Michael Franti, who's also Bay Area, just a bunch of really fabulous people who are willing to just give me their time and do an interview with me, even though they have no idea who I am.
Right. We don't have too much time left, but is that something, in order to coordinate something like that in an event, a musical event or concert, how much coordination does it take to kind of incorporate that into the show?
A lot. I do it all myself, and I reach out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm still hoping to get Stevie Wonder and Lenny Kravitz.
All right, Kat, thanks so much. For more information, log on to SignTheShow.com. That's SignTheShow.com. And that is it for this week. We'll be back next week with more Bay Sunday. Have a great day, everyone.